This behind me is a 2025 Polaris General XP1000 Ultimate, and it looks, well, it looks a lot like a 2019 Polaris General XP1000 Ultimate because that's the last time Polaris significantly updated their Rec Ute machine. In the time since the General was released, Polaris has done the following. They've reset the sport side-by-side market with the Polaris RZR Pro R and the Polaris RZR Pro R Factory, invented the UTV Overlanding market with the Polaris Xpedition, and they brought out the world's first luxury 3/4 ton UTV with the Polaris Ranger XD 1500. Not only that, they gave the Ranger XP1000, their ever stalwart utility rig, a facelift this past year for 2025, so even that has gotten an update. While the rest of the Polaris lineup has been getting faster and stronger and prettier, while the General has been the proverbial good soldier, pulling more than its fair share of the weight without an update or a complaint. But with so many other machines in Polaris's stable, is it really worth buying a General in 2025? We think it is, and we're going to tell you why we think you should buy one. So this is the General XP1000 Ultimate, and it comes with Ride Command, with Stage 3 Rockford Fosgate audio, with a backup camera, with a 4,500-pound winch, with on-demand four-wheel drive, with turf mode, 14 inches of suspension travel, and a rear view mirror. Sure, there's no enclosed cab, but the General has most of the big-ticket creature comfort items and most of the overlanding chops of the Polaris Xpedition, and it lists for just $28,999 in Ultimate spec. So for some context, the cheapest 2025 Polaris Xpedition starts at $38,999, and for 2025, Polaris has ditched the open cab Xpedition models. So when you buy that rig, you're automatically getting electric windows, HVAC, and other niceties, but $10,000 is $10,000. If you need 4 doors and lockable storage in the ADV model, you're going to be looking at north of $40,000. By comparison, a 4-seat General XP1000 Ultimate is just $31,999. That pricing is really hard to argue with, especially in this day and age, and it leads us nicely into the second reason that we think a General is worth buying in 2025. Sure, the Polaris Xpedition may have invented the UTV overlanding segment, but the Polaris General is a super deft and capable camping machine. You give up enclosed lockable storage and niceties like a flat roof that will accept a roof rack and a rooftop tent. But the Polaris accessory catalog is deep, and the General is capacious and capable enough to get you and your family deep into the sticks and support you while you're there. Further making that point, Polaris's decision to ditch the open cab Xpeditions for 2025 seems to back up our point. If you want an overlander at a bargain price, the General is your huckleberry. So let's take a look at what your $28,999 gets you. So just a cursory look over the interior makes clear that the General is very much an old school side-by-side. It looks dated in here, and the plastics aren't up to the standards of more modern UTVs, and the ergonomics just aren't quite as dialed as we've gotten used to. But here's the thing. I don't care. The last couple years have spoiled me on nicer interiors and better layouts, but the General has everything you need, nothing you don't, and quite a lot of stuff you want. So I'll start with the simple things. Even in this 2-door model, there is plenty of storage here, here, and here for your phone, your snacks, your drinks, and even an extra layer or two. And the bed has enough space and capacity to carry all the tools and camping gear you'll need. And if you're carrying around some firewood, the 600-pound capacity bed has hydraulic assist dumping. Moving back inside, these seats are excellent. They're big enough to fit any body type. They're nicely bolstered without getting in the way, and they are absolutely all-day comfortable. Sticking with the seats, you get 3-point inertia reel seat belts. Now, sure, a set of harnesses would be more secure, but most General buyers aren't doing hardcore off-roading, and outside of a racing context, fixed harnesses are going to be more bother than they're worth. And then there's this. Yes, we are once again talking about Polaris Ride Command. This system is excellent. We say it all the time. It is an industry standard infotainment and navigation system. In here, there are 1 million miles of mapped trails. It will do rig-to-rig communication so you can keep your group together at all times. And not only that, it controls the excellent Rockford Fosgate Stage 3 stereo. As if that wasn't enough, Polaris Ride Command has app connectivity. So even if your friend doesn't have a Polaris UTV, UTV. If they've got a smartphone, they can get the app. It's super simple to use, and that way everybody is connected regardless of whether they're in a Polaris or a competitor's rig. So other than that, there's really not much going on in here, and that's as it should be, because without side windows and without windshields, you're going to get a lot of mud and dust in here, but because it's so rugged, you can just hit it with a pressure washer and be on your way with a clean rig. And speaking of throwing mud, the General is capable enough to get over just about anything you aim it at. Partially that's because it's a side-by-side and, well, they just do that. And partially that's because Polaris started by designing a super capable platform and then sort of built a side-by-side on top of it. Let me show you what I mean. Regardless of trim level, the General XP1000 gets 30-inch Pro Armor tires, front and rear, wrapped around 14-inch alloy wheels. It's also got 14 inches of suspension travel front and rear thanks to a set of Walker Evans Velocity Series shocks that come on every trim level. Now, there is no electronic suspension available on any General, but that's not really a big issue on a rig that's built for simplicity and fun. Don't get it twisted. Electronic suspension is excellent, but it is more complicated than the manual stuff, and one day it will need fixing. And if you want something better than the standard stuff, the General is an excellent platform to build out exactly what you need. Trust us, we've bashed around in Generals from the tight East Coast trails at Windrock all the way to the canyons of Utah, and we have never pointed a General at an obstacle that it failed to get over. And speaking of Utah, that leads us nicely to the Winch. All Polaris General XP1000s come with a Polaris branded 4,500 pound winch. Let me tell you a little story about this winch. 2 years ago, we were in Utah and former editor-in-chief Zach Bowman rolled a Can-Am down a mountain backwards. He ended up on the Defender's roof at a precarious angle, and we didn't really know what to do. But we had a Polaris General XP1000 with us, and we angled it down the hill towards the Can-Am, and we stretched out the winch to the end of its rope, strapped it to the Can-Am, and winched the thing back onto its wheels up a hill. We wouldn't recommend trying that at home, seriously, but it made believers out of us that this Polaris winch is everything you'll ever need, and the General comes with it standard. We're gonna pause the video right there for just a second and ask you to do us a favor. We need you to hit that like button. We need you to subscribe to our channel and hit that bell to get notified when we drop a new video. Right now we've got about 15,000 subscribers and we're trying to hit 25,000 subscribers by the 4th of July, and we need your help. And we will get right back to the video as soon as you've done that. So, are there things we don't like? Well, sure, nothing's perfect, and this rig is old and it shows its age. It's less refined, it's less pretty, and it feels cheaper than newer machines. It's starting to feel like a relic of side-by-sides past, and newer UTVs are almost universally quicker and peppier. But even with those negatives, we cannot stress enough what a bargain the General is, especially as UTVs get more and more expensive. This is the Overlanding rig for the everyman. It's cheap enough to be affordable for people whose bank accounts contain fewer than 6 figures, and it's rugged and capable enough for 90% of the population 90% of the time. So, should you buy a Polaris General in 2025? Like we said earlier, we think you absolutely should, especially if you're not concerned with creature comforts, but you are concerned with affordability, practicality, reliability, and capability. Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave us a comment down below. Are we wrong about the 2025 Polaris General? And while you're at it, why don't you let us know what you'd like to see on the next generation General, which we are sure Polaris is working on. And when you've done that, head over to utvdriver.com where we've got news, reviews, and buyer's guides 5 days a week. We will catch you there.